Welcome back. We're at session 2 of the 3 sessions planned for this week. Hope the first session was okay, not too heavy. A little bit more practice now with software. We're going to look at Microsoft Project. This video is designed for the sort of beginner intermediate project manager that's going to use Microsoft Project. If you've used Microsoft Project before and you feel very comfortable, by all means you can skip this video and go straight into session 3. If you want a quick recap or you're completely new to it, stay with me. I'll go through the product and hopefully you'll feel a little bit more confident by the end of this video. So a brief overview of Microsoft Project. It's actually the world's most popular project management software application, and typically it belongs to the Microsoft range of software programs, and it's designed for project managers to develop plans, assign resources to tasks, track progress, manage budgets and analysing workloads. So a little bit of background. Microsoft originally purchased the software from another company and released its own version in 1985, and Microsoft in the 80s and early 90s were very good at monopolising the software market by taking products like Microsoft Excel and various others and putting them under the Microsoft branch. The most recent version is 2020. For the benefit of this demonstration, I'm going to use Microsoft Project 2016, and other than a few graphical features, there doesn't seem to be much difference between the latest version and this version. You may be using a slightly older version, but the concept should be the same. The features and functions will be in similar places. If you get stuck and come across any real difficulties in following my instructions, send me an email, drop me a line, and I can look at maybe an older version, a more legacy version that I could use to help you with that. But just stick with it. There is a PDF file that accompanies this demonstration that you can read through step by step, that you might find easier than listening to my dulcet tones and watching me do it, but plenty of options for you. But the idea is that you do this, observe this session, and then in session 3 I'm handing the reins over to yourself, and for the rest of the session this week I want you to have a practice, get familiar with the concepts, the controls, the tools, and then this will build you up nicely into next week, where we will be looking at more exercises using this tool, because your first assessment is using Microsoft Project. Okay, so as I was saying, Microsoft Project allows the project manager to enter tasks of the project, also known as the work breakdown structure. I think we touched on that in the last presentation. And it's also, they need to assign workers or resources to the tasks, as well as cost information. And Project provides the functionality to allow the user to create reports, to communicate the status and progress of a project. So it's a very useful tool. It's not just for the project manager, but the project manager can use this tool to communicate effectively with stakeholders and anyone that's involved in the project. So this guide will give you basically a little whistle-stop tour. Includes some of the key features and basic components to allow you to quickly have a go yourself, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, so getting started. Now I'm using a remote desktop session to my computer in Carlisle, because my laptop unfortunately doesn't have Microsoft Project on it. So I'm actually remoting in using remote desktop software while we're in lockdown to a PC in Carlisle at Fuselil Street. So hopefully we'll have no teething problems. But to get started, you can search in the search bar here, or your start menu. I've got mine just handy on the desktop there on the start bar. You can also right click in the blank space and go to new, and you can select Microsoft Project. So there's various different ways to get there. Obviously we all have our preferences. I'm just going to click on the taskbar down here and open up, and obviously straight away you get this nice green bar on the left hand side, and what we want to do is to select a blank project. So if I click on this blank project, and here we go, this is the Microsoft project screen. And what you've got here is what's called the navigational bar across the top here. You've got the timeline, which gives you a project timeline. You've got a Gantt chart view here, and you've got all these ribbons along here with various different functions and features, which hopefully I'll be able to go through with you as we go along. Okay, so before we go anywhere, there's a few things you need to do with your in Project. You need to sort of be able to set the project options, and you click on File over here, and you go down right to the bottom to Options. You click on Options, it brings up this lovely window here with various different features on it. Now there's a couple that I always like to do before I do anything else. The first one I like to do is go to the Schedule tab here. You click on the schedule tab and it gives you basically what day of the week you start. It gives you the default start times, the default end times for a working day, number of hours worked per day, which is quite important when you're calculating resource and costings. We need to know how much time people are actually spending in work. So we're going to go for the standard 8 hours with an hour for lunch, a 40-hour week, days per month, so we're assuming that we're not working weekends, so it'll be 5 working days a week over a normal monthly period. So you can change these, you can tweak them. There's another couple of tick boxes you can click on here. New tasks are effort driven, which is a useful feature to tick. So that is the schedule, and you can also define your work calendar as well, which is a useful feature. I'll click OK to that. So just going back to that menu down here, you can also, it shouldn't be relevant for us I don't think at the moment, but you have other menus such as advanced. For example, the standard rate is pounds, pounds and hours. You can change that to US dollars, and you can change your language settings if you're working overseas. You've got proofing, so it can do some spell checking and proofreading. I always think it's important for a project manager's professional credibility that you do spell correctly and you use good words, good grammar. So ensuring things like this are important. Various other add-ins as well that you can look at if you really want to. If you want to do a little bit of searching online, you can find out what all of these features do. But generally, it's good to have in the display session using pounds, 2 decimal places, etc. So that's that feature there. So again, if you look right across the taskbar, you've also got to define the work calendar as well, which is a useful feature. So again, you've got these tabs across the top here, and if you click on project, in the project tab, you have a project information tab that gives you lots of information about the project, and we also have a change work time feature here. So if you click on change work time, this is a useful menu because it allows you to work out, for example, what time your staff are working. So it might not be too clear on your view, but this area here is just greyed out, so we're not assuming that any of our people are going to be working weekends. Now it may change in your project, you may want your team members to work weekends, you may want to schedule that in, and there's various features in here. So according to the plan at the moment, we're going to be working 8 till 12, 1 till 5, Monday to Friday. And what you've got down here is you've got options to put exceptions in there, where you can put in bank holidays, public holidays, so to speak, and you can even calculate your working weeks as well and put them in there, and you click on details here and you can work it out exactly what days are going to be working time and which days aren't. For the benefit of this demonstration, I'm going to keep it nice and simple. We're just going to do a simple Monday to Friday 8 till 5 o'clock working day, but there is ways and means if you want to change those details at a later date, and then we may give you a couple of examples where you may have to go in and change that. Okay, so let me show you the project information tab. Project information tab, you can actually put the start date of your project. Now we're going to assume that we're working today on the 5th of the 5th, but we could set that a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, so to speak, and that's when your project will start. So that is in the project information window. For the benefit of this demonstration, we'll keep it as it is. Okay, so we've got a task area. So creating tasks. So tasks represent the work to be done to accomplish the goals of the project. For this reason, it is worth developing good practices in how you name tasks in your project plans. Task names should be recognisable and make sense to the people who perform the tasks and other stakeholders who will see the tasks in your schedule. Keep in mind that you can edit these task names later, so don't worry if you're not getting them exactly the right names initially. But do aim to be concise, descriptive phrases that communicate the required work and make sense to you and others will help you perform the work better. So consider the following list of tasks. So you've got a team of people working on a website. My background is computing, so sometimes I use examples from sort of computing world. So we may have a set of steps that prepare a web development team to build a website. A typical waterfall-y type of life cycle model, and in that presentation earlier in session 1 we talked about the APM life cycle model. There's various different permutations of life cycle models. I'm just going to do a very simple one for this example. And the one I'm going to show you is a simple website systems analysis type of approach to building a website. So we may have a series of tasks. So to put a task into the Gantt chart, so as you can see here, we've got a task name box here, we've got a duration, a time, a finish, predecessors. If you scroll this window across here, you get resources as well, which I'll come to a little bit later on. So we'll just scroll back to here. This section to the right is going to be where your Gantt chart gets constructed. So it's quite a useful tool. At the moment you've got a calendar along here, so obviously we are on the 5th of May today, day after Star Wars Day, and from here is where our project will start. It gives you a few days prior to the start date, and this will go on and on and on as long as the project is in situ. Okay, so to add tasks, so this is the sort of starting point of any project plan that you do in Microsoft Pro. You need to put some tasks in there, and this is work to be done. Okay, and this can be generated from your work breakdown structure, but we're going to do a website. So the first thing I'd expect a team of competent IT people to do is develop some requirements or get some requirements, and that may be going to and finding out what the customer wants. So I'm going to put a task in here called requirements gathering. Dead simple, keep it simple. If you click on here, double click on there, you can open it out a little bit, or you can drag it backwards and forwards. So we've got requirements gathering. So I would expect them to go away for a number of days, get some information, do some systems analysis, find out what the customer, or who the person who wants the website actually wants on their web page, whether they want, whether it's a dynamic website that can fit on mobile phone screens, whether it's something for Google, whether it's kind of icons, whether it's going to have an e-commerce back end, front end, so people can purchase items. Is it going to have graphics, video, what colour schemes is it going to have? Find out as much information as you possibly can using various different tools. We don't need to go into the details of that at this moment in time. This is a very, very high level plan at the moment. So once they've done some requirements gathering and they've got a list of what the customer wants and what the bit of market research, for example, there might be some design. So there'll be some sort of graphic design that goes on, sketches, prototyping, those sort of things. They then might move from the design stage and do some development. This might be where they do the coding, the testing, and putting the website together basically. And then at the end of the website there might be a bit of maintenance. Okay, and that's a very, very simple, basic way of setting up tasks and things. Now there's different things you can do in this. For the sake of this example, we're going to keep it as simple as those 4 tasks, but what you can do, it's a really good feature in Microsoft Project, if you click on task here. Now as I said earlier, requirements gathering is quite vast, isn't it? So within requirements gathering there may be lots and lots of subtasks that go on inside that area. So within here, if you right click on the number 2 area here, you can actually click and insert task, and you can actually add additional tasks. So within requirements gathering it might be discuss with customer. Another one might be some market research. Another one, just put another one in there, might be some brainstorming. And basically what I'd like is those to all become part of requirements gathering. So if I highlight those 3 there and then click on this tool here, it indents the tasks, and those tasks become part of requirements gathering. And you can do the same for design, you can do it for maintenance. So for the benefit of this example, I'm just going to keep it very simple and not have indentations and things, so I don't want to overly confuse you. Now you might notice over on this left hand side, this box has just appeared. Now there's 2 ways you can use this. There's a manual schedule and there's an auto schedule, and the difference between the 2 is that if you have an auto schedule, if I put 1 day in there, Microsoft Project takes the start date of my project, which we've already preset as the 5th of the 5th, adds 1 day to it and automatically does it. If I have it as manual, I would have to work it out myself and put the dates in here as and when, which, in an ideal world let's trust the computer, let's use the technology. Some people prefer the manual settings. Personally, I don't. I like to let Microsoft Project do the workings out for me. I'm lazy. So as you can see now, that's all been set to auto. There is a preset that you can do down here that actually works it out for you. But for the benefit of this example, it's just handy to click those boxes in there. So we've created some tasks. Okay, so we've got some tasks, and the next thing to do is work out some duration. So prior to doing your Gantt chart, you'll have probably done some estimating. You've probably worked out exactly how long certain tasks take. So in this duration section here, you can then put in how long requirements gathering is going to take. So as you can see there, I'm going to allow 5 days for them to go out there and do some requirements gathering, some systems analysis. I'm going to give 10 days for design. I'd like them to maybe do some sketching, some prototyping, and maybe do a electronic, conversion, simple designs. And that's the sort of thing that they'd take back to the stakeholder and say, this is my idea, what do you think? And at this point, hopefully they'll be happy, and you can then move to the development stage. In the development stage, you can hand over the design to the coders, the geeks, and they will then, using HTML, write the code and produce a nice website. And at the end, we may have some testing and some maintenance. So I'm actually going to add an extra step in there that I've missed. I'm going to put some testing in there, because I'd like to think that once they've done all the coding, they'll do some bug fixing and make sure that the code is good and correct. So we'll add an additional one there, 5 days. So we're going to have 10 days for development, 5 days for testing, and then after they've done some testing, they find a few bugs. It's very rare in computer programming that we don't get bugs in our code, and it's never right first time. So we'll allow a couple of days for the test people to set up. So as you can see now, we've got some durations, and as you can see, the Gantt chart is starting to develop for all those tasks. We've got some colour on there, we've got a start date and a finish date. Now the problem we've got here is that in the real world, it's not logic. It might be if you've got enough people, but logically I would not expect a website to be built straight away from scratch. If I said to you now, go and make me a website, the first question is say, what do you require, who's it for? So there's a set of sequence steps that you have to follow when you use Microsoft, or build a website, so to speak. So what you could have to expect to do is they're all sequential. So you would do your requirements gathering, then you do your design, then you do your development, then you do your testing, then you do your maintenance. And I think those steps are crucially important in this, and you'd be the same within your project management life cycle. Certain things have to be done in a certain order, and you need to allocate time and people to them. So this is called linking tasks. So most of projects require tasks to be performed in a specific order. For example, in this exercise, you cannot logically design, implement and test your website all at once. The tasks need to be done sequentially. In project management, this is referred to as a finish to start relationship, also called a link or a dependency. To link these, highlight the tasks you want to sequence, then in the task tab, so we're going to highlight these like so, and then we're going to go to the task tab, which we're currently in, and in the schedule section, this is this section here, it'll be highlighted in your handout, and then you click on the link icon, and think of a chain. This is the link icon, and you click in the link icon, it creates a list of dependencies, and as you can see, our Gantt chart has now developed into this nice hierarchical waterfall approach to show these tasks being done. So you cannot do your design until you've finished your requirements, you cannot develop the code until you've done your design, and once you've made the code you can't test it. You wouldn't do them in different order. If I scroll this out, you actually now get a list of what's called predecessors. So it's actually worked out by using that little wizard that task 1 is done before task 2 can be done, and so on. So there's two ways you can do this. You can actually type in those predecessors, or you can highlight the row and use a link icon. I like using the links. I'm quite lazy, but I do know people that do like to type in the predecessors within those boxes as well. Okay, so you get this nice Gantt chart. So there's your Gantt chart now. Very waterfall, sequential way of doing things for a very simple website. Okay. So the next task to do within Microsoft Project is to add resources. Now, as a project manager, I need to be able to, plan who's going to do what, and try and work out some costings, and generally try and get organised so that I know exactly who's doing what, how much it's costing, and how much time it's taking. So there's a feature within Microsoft Project which is called assigning resources, and there's 3 types of resources. There's what's called work types, cost types, and material types. And Microsoft Project supports all 3 of those types of resources, and these are work resource and 2 special purpose resources for cost and material. So I'll tell you a little bit about those. So you've got work resources that include people and equipment needed to complete the project. Your cost resources sort of represent the financial costs associated with a task that you need. For example, it might be travel expenses, it might be entertainment costs. Your material resources might be, for example, if you're building a wall, it might be the concrete, the sand, the bricks, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how you assign resources to tasks, and it's quite a simple process. Hopefully it will be quite straightforward for this example, and obviously the more comfortable and confident you get with project, we'll have more tasks and subtasks within this window here, and we'll be assigning resources to all those subtasks, but we'll keep it very simple. So what we're going to do is, to assign resources, we need to go to this resource view. Okay, so we click on this, and we're looking for the resource sheet. So there's different ways you can get to it. You can click on here and you go to the resource sheet. There's various different ones. You can go to the view tab and you can click on resource sheet there. There you'll find with Microsoft Project, like most Microsoft programs, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more ways than one to get to where you need to be. So again, you can go to view, resource sheet, or you can within here click on here and click resource sheet. And what this does is it brings a very, very basic screen up here. It's got a list here of resource names, the type of resources, the material. It gives you initials, it gives you some standard rates, some costs, etc. All be a little bit daunting at the moment, but hopefully the example that I'm going to show you now will hopefully help you with this. So we know that we've got a set of steps that are going to be done by our quality project team of our web development team, we'll call it, for this project. Okay, so we've got a systems analyst, we've got a graphic designer. So the system analyst will go and do the requirements gathering. We'll have a graphic designer that will do the designs. We're going to have a coder that's going to do some coding, and we're going to have a test engineer that's going to do some testing of our code as well. So these are generic skills and resources. So when we're going to do resources, you can do it in 2 ways. You can either name the actual skill or task that it is, or you can name the person. I sometimes like a hybrid. I kind of tend to use a combination of 2. So the resource name over here, I'm going to put in Steve Jobs. Okay, you like what I did there using an Apple reference. So Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs is going to be my systems analyst. So I'm going to put systems analyst in brackets there. If I just drag that out a little bit, I can create a little bit more space for myself. So Steve Jobs is my analyst. I could just put Steve Jobs, I could just put systems analyst, but I'm going to be detailing what I do, and I'm going to put both in there. Okay, so Steve Jobs, he's a human being. He's going to do some work, so he goes under what's called a work resource. You've got him working 100% of the time because he's got a 100% contract, full-time contract. You may want to have 2 people systems analysts and have 50-50 between them. Now what I need to do is, Steve Jobs is on £15.50 an hour doing his analysis, so I'm going to put £15.50 within that box, and that's all I need to do at this point. Nice and simple. I now need to add Mark Zuckerberg, and what Mark Zuckerberg is going to do. When you do live videos, you always miss something, don't you? So capital Z, big on that. and he's going to be our graphic designer. So he's going to design our nice interfaces for this lovely website that I've got in mind. Okay, he's going to again have a work one. Now graphic designers in computing are paid quite well actually. So, because they're quite creative, they tend to lie on beanbags at Google and design really nice interfaces and systems. So there's another one. We're going to add Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates' background is programming, creative Microsoft. So he's going to be our programmer, and we're going to pay Mr. Gates a nice healthy £12.75 an hour. And finally, Larry Page. Larry is our test engineer. Nice contractual rate of £30 an hour. So what we've done now is we have created a nice resource sheet for our professionals. Okay. So as well as the people working on the project, we may have some additional costs to incur. For example, each team member probably needs a desktop computer. Now you could argue that the chances are a web development company, they'd already have these tools already, and they won't want to put them, every time they do a new project, they won't buy a new PC, a new set of tools. You'd like to assume they've already got these tools, but for the sake of this demonstration, let's put in another couple of people. So I've also just realised I haven't got anyone to do any maintenance. So I think we need to employ someone to do some maintenance. So we've got Steve Wozniak. He was with Bill Gates, sorry, Steve Jobs, apologies, in the early days of Apple. Again, I'm just my OT. I'm very OCD if he has to have a certain role. So he's going to be our test engineer. So there are people, so we're going to have some desktop PCs in here, an expense, some material in there, so desktop PC can go in there, and this one becomes a material. Okay, and we need a cost, so decent spec PCs for this sort of line of work, I would probably be looking to spend about £500. We can't really go buying £2,000 MacBooks unfortunately, but we'll go for PC. And with any website, once the website is built, there's a hosting fee that you have to pay to an internet service provider, and that will be considered a cost. So we'll just put that in there, and we just leave it as it is for now. And that basically is our resource sheet. And if we employ other people as we go along, other people, later on in the life cycle, we might need to add additional resource. This is where we do it. So this is the hosting area. Okay, so then the key next job is to assign resource to the actual task. So we're going to go back to our Gantt view. So you click on this window here, click on Gantt. As you can see, we've got our nice Gantt chart here. I'm just going to scroll this across for a moment. And as you can see at the moment, we have our Gantt chart with our windows. And what we want to do is we want to assign tasks to this. So what we're going to do, it's really simple. We can drag this window out just a little bit further. This one here, it gets a bit crowded, so you've got to be careful when you're working through here. But as you can see, we have a resource names area here. So if you go to the resource names and click on this box here, we need to assign Steve Jobs to the requirements gathering section. So we click on this box here, and we're going to put Steve Jobs, our systems analyst, in there. And as you can see, Steve Jobs immediately appears in this section here against the requirements gathering. So we're going to quickly repeat that. So we've got Mark Zuckerberg working on the design. We have Bill Gates doing the programming. We have some testing done by Larry. And we have some maintenance done by Steve Wozniak. So straight away, as you can see on this right hand side, we now have some resources assigned to each person. You'll notice as well that we have a designated person for each task. No two people are working at the same time, so we get no conflict of resource, which you'll come across in future videos where we assign too many people to certain tasks at the same time. Now we're looking here, this is sequential, but in other projects, while the graphic design is taking place, something else might be taking place at the same time, and Bill Gates might be in two places at once. So you need to make sure that your resources, and if you do have issues with resource, down here on this left hand side, Microsoft Project will alert you and tell you to make changes, which is a useful feature and very useful for project managers when they're trying to assign resources to those sort of things. So as you can see, that's quite useful already. It's given us a little bit of an insight into what's required. So what we've got to do at this point now is we need to baseline this, because this is now our plan. We're at a position now where we've got a very high level document that's useful. It tells us what tasks are going to be done, how long they're going to take, what the predecessors are, what the start time is, and who's doing those jobs. So we've got a useful working document here that can set us off on a, on the task of being, setting up this website. There's other features. You can set milestones, you can put summaries in there, we can look at the critical path and various other things. We'll look at these in future sessions. I want to keep it really simple for the benefit of this video. So what we need to do is we need to set the baseline. So what it means by setting the baseline is this is our plan, and this is the plan that we need to check against in future revisits to the project plan once we start the project. So to set the baseline, what you do is you go to the project tab up here, and when you go to the schedule section, which I'm just trying to see, it's right in front of my eyes here, and you'll see this option here, set baseline. So you set baseline there, and these are all standard settings. You just click OK. So now our project has been baselined. This is the project that we're going to use, and then what you can do then is you can go and update your schedule. So let's say we get to the 5th, today's the 5th, we're going to start the project. We click on the View tab, and on the View tab we've got a series of tables and information that we can look at, and as you can see here, we're in the early stages of our project, and what we can do is we can look on the tracking view. I can find the tracking down here, and as you can see here, it shows you basically the time it's taken, the baseline, and how long it's going to, and where we are. Now we haven't started yet because we are on the 5th, but if we exaggerated and we're on the 11th, wherever we are and what we assign here will come up against the same task in the project window. So what we're going to be doing in future sessions, I don't want to do too much too soon in this, is get familiar with the tools and features within Microsoft Project, and you can update your schedule, which is really useful. And in the exercise that you'll do, it goes into a little bit more detail on how to update your tasks and things. So finally, just before I hand it over for you to have a practice, what I want to do is just show you some of the reporting features of Microsoft Project. So again, across this navigational bar at the top there is a report feature. You click on this and you've got this feature here called dashboards. If you click on this dashboard here, it shows you a series of reports that can give you some really valuable information. So the first one, you get a nice burn down chart graphically that can provide you with some useful information with your baseline and comparing your remaining cumulative work and the actual work. You've also got, if I go back to report again and dashboards, you have a cost overview. So this project is going to cost £4,840, which in this modern day it normally costs about £3,000 for a dynamic website. So I'm not a million miles away of my costings. Perhaps maybe employing someone a little bit cheaper than Bill Gates, perhaps, I don't know, but that gives you the information costs. And you also, if you start running behind schedule, you'll find this document will evolve with it. Some of the other features we've got in here, we have project overviews, which obviously we're not started the project yet, so you won't expect to see much happening in there. You also have some up and coming tasks. Again, because we haven't really started much yet, we just know that Steve Jobs is due to start. Well, hopefully he has started by, unless he's working nights, but that isn't reflected on our plan. And we have a work overview. which shows us that we haven't started anything yet, so we obviously won't see anything complete. But if we revisited this in a couple of weeks' time, we could fill in some of those sections, and it's a working document that the project manager can use. Okay, when you're at that point to finish, you've got a choice. Hit the save button, it'll save it as project 1, but ideally save as, find a location and save your document. Now this is the very, very basic whistle-stop tour of Microsoft Project, so I expect that you'll need a couple of goes at this. So on the documents within Blackboard, this instruction set is set as a PDF file. What I want you to try and do for session number 3 is have a go. I'm not expecting you to be an expert, but what I'd like you to do is have a little go at some of the adding tasks, adding resources, follow the steps best you can. Take a few print screens of your Gantt chart and your resources and stuff. And what I'd like you to do at the end is go to the journal section within Blackboard, and I want you to post either your print screens with some descriptions of what you've done. If you want to save your project file and then upload it as an attachment within the journal, that would be great. But that's basically what we're going to be doing for the remainder of this week's session. And what you'll also find at the bottom of the tasks for this week, there'll be a very, very short quiz on the lecture that we had first thing on session 1, just to check your understanding. I appreciate if you could have a look at that quiz. Hopefully it'll be set up and it's digital, so the answers should appear. But if not, if you can just jot the questions down and type the answers next to them and then upload that to your journal, you'll get over the next few weeks a nice record of information that you can then use when you get your assessments later on in the course. Okay, so that is a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of Microsoft Project. Hopefully you found this useful. We will be looking at Microsoft projects quite intensively over the next month, and hopefully by the end of the month you'll be very comfortable using it. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you all next week. Thank you.